The HomeTech podcast is made possible by our supporters. To learn more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the HomeTech podcast for Friday, 4 de Mayo, 2018. I'm Seth Johnson from Sarasota, Florida.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. Seth, how are you?
¿Qué pasa?
Yeah. It's good. I like it. It's keeping it multicultural around here.
Well, you know, Cinco de Mayo is coming up,
big,
so we got
big holiday weekend coming up. Kentucky Derby as well.
Nice.
So those are two big drinking holidays that
don't mix them.
Happen to overlap. No.
Bourbon, tequila.
Bourbon. No. Yeah, that sounds like a bad Monday. Is what that sounds like.
It's like a very bad Monday. So we're back. This is the we missed last week. You were out gallivanting and actually training. We can't really blame you.
I was out in Boston with the One Vision team, as listeners to the show are probably familiar with. I work out of a home office here in Denver, and the company One Vision that I work for is based in Boston. So I try to get out there, at least once a quarter or more. And so I was overdue for a trip out there, and just went out and hung out with the team for a couple of days, and we had a big, leadership meeting and kind of do some strategic planning, and really exciting, man. Really exciting times to be a part of the company and great things happening. And so it was fun to be out there and be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, while you took the week off working, I decided to go ahead and upgrade our live stream server. So I think it's working.
All right.
Cody said he heard the Cinco de Mayo music playing, so maybe it's working.
Yeah,
we should have more capacity now, so that's a good thing.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder how that'll do with the lag. I guess we'll have to ask. Like, if you're in the chat room and you're hearing me say this, respond.
Yeah.
Right now, and we'll see how quickly they reply. I know there's traditionally been quite a big lag there, and hopefully we tighten that up a little bit. But anyways, we're always making improvements, right, Seth? So there they are, and yep, it looks like coming through loud and clear, according to Cody. So all good stuff.
I was counting when you said that. I think it's still about that 10 seconds lag, which I think you get with live streaming. So, oh well,
to be expected.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's jump in with a few home tech headlines. After years of neglecting the product that was beloved by every one of its users, Apple has officially discontinued the Airport router line and will exit the router business completely as soon as the remaining inventory is completely sold off. This includes the Airport Extreme, Express, and both models of the Time Capsule. As a way of thanking many fans of the Airport, the product line, Apple will offer no discount in pricing. Can you tell I'm a little bitter on that one?
Yeah, I see that. It's I don't know, it's kind of a bummer, but it's not surprising. I think we reported months ago that there were rumors of them pulling out of it, and I know that whole business has changed quite a bit with a lot of new competitors coming in, Eero, for example, and all of the others that we've talked about a whole bunch of times. So I'm not shocked, but I know it is disappointing for a lot of people. It was my mainstay for quite a while here at home.
You got out right in time.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Apple discontinuing Airport, they have also published a new support document detailing what customers should be looking for when upgrading from their existing Airport devices. While Apple's Airport devices never supported mesh networking, Apple does recommend using such a setup, especially if you have a larger home. The company also recommends getting a router that supports AC, Wi-Fi, simultaneous dual band networks, so 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, WPA2 encryption, and I never know how to pronounce this, MIMO and MU-MIMO.
Works for me.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Sonos has quietly and confidentially filed paperwork for an IPO. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal this week, it is likely that Sonos would raise hundreds of millions of dollars in capital, and it puts its market valuation around $2.5 to $3 billion. The IPO could happen as early as June. Big news for Sonos.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say this is another one that is not shocking. We've been hearing some rumors about this, and just even that aside, they're a company that definitely seems like this is the next logical step. Our caption for this next one, Seth, Sonos makes Seth sad.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
So after years of complaining that Sonos didn't have any AirPlay support, they announced support for AirPlay 2. on every single device that I do not own. Like literally every device I don't own, they are offering on. No Play Bar support, no Play 1, no Play 3, no Play 5. I don't own that one. It's on the going to be on the new ones like the Play Base, the Sonos One, and I think the Gen 2 Play 5. I'm kind of going off memory there, but happy that we get AirPlay 2. Not so happy I don't get AirPlay 2.
I know, man. That's been a battle cry for you for a long time. So I'm sorry they've disappointed you yet again. Why don't I go ahead and take this next one here? One more Sonos story. A lot of Sonos, and we're going to get to a whole bunch of Amazon stories here too. Sonos and Amazon sort of dominated the headlines this week. Sonos is getting ready to announce a new smart home theater speaker, according to a regulatory filing that was made public on Monday. The speaker has a model number S14 and notably features an HDMI port, which is a departure from how they've typically done things with optical audio. Clues in the filing suggest that it will have integrated far-field voice control similar to the Sonos One, which offers direct access to Amazon's Alexa Assistant, and I think more as well. I think Google was either forthcoming or was there already. So it'll be
one of these days.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I know the Play Bar has been pretty popular and was a great product every time that I installed it in my time in the field. It really filled a nice little niche, and so cool to see them continuing to develop there.
Yep. Yeah. I got to say I have the Play Bar, and the HDMI port makes sense to me because the Toslink port that they use, the optical out that goes from the TV to the Play Bar itself, it can be problematic. I have issues with mine. It's not exactly like I have a fairly new LG TV, and kind of got online and poked around, and some of the problems I have with delays and voice sync and that kind of thing, it looks like other people are having that problem too. So if it integrates with the HDMI, they get the better audio. Like you can do the Dolby Vision audio stuff, like or what is it? Yeah,
right.
All the fancy audio stuff.
Like I know Atmos, I believe, and some of the other, possibly even some of those other immersive formats like DTS:X and Oro. I think all might require HDMI.
Yep. So it makes sense moving forward that they'd want to be on that platform and be treated more like a traditional receiver, if you will. It's kind of weird, but there you go. In the next few weeks, Amazon will start rolling out a slew of new features for the Alexa that will actually make the device seem a little smarter. The features include the ability to infer context from a previous question, and kind of like asking, how's the weather in Denver? And then immediately following it up with, how far away is it will be able to figure out you're talking about Denver.
Right.
And that'll allow for more natural feeling conversations. And the ability for Alexa to remember important facts, such as the date of a friend's birthday, or that Donald Trump lost a popular vote by 3 million. Wait, who put that in there?
I was wondering about that one, how that one snuck in there.
Strange.
It's probably the Russians.
Exactly. One of the more interesting updates, I think, will be for Alexa to figure out which skill best suits the question you've asked without having to ask a particular skill. Like right now, you have to ask Tide how to get this stain out. And one of the examples they gave was just like, how do I get this stain out of this fabric? And it says, here, use this. Use this, and it figures out what skill to go to ask that question, which is, I think that's going to be huge.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Yeah, I know that's always been one of the sort of clunky things about interacting with different skills is that you sort of have to know, Alexa, ask, like you said, Tide to do this, and now you can just ask the question and she'll go, hopefully figure that out for you. So definitely step in the right direction, making things a little bit more natural there. Again, a number of stories here from Amazon, so we're going to keep it rolling. Amazon plans to release a slate of new Alexa features for parents and children, plus a new $80 version of the Echo Dot designed for kids. This, of course, attempting to expand the appeal of their voice assistant for families and broaden the reach within the home. And I thought this was pretty neat, Seth. The new options announced include a, quote, magic word feature, that offers positive reinforcement for saying please. And I think that's really interesting because I actually heard a conversation just casually. I can't even remember where, but it was with some just sort of industry peers and talking about voice control and kids using it. And I've experienced it with my own daughter, who's 3.5 now, and very snappy sort of language, right? Alexa, do this. Alexa, do that. And you wonder, like, well, maybe Alexa should teach them like some manners, right? And so I think that's very interesting that if I'm understanding it correctly, it'll still respond whether or not you say please, but it'll just sort of say thank you for asking nicely, or thank you for being so polite, or whatever. And sort of a cool way to teach kids who are growing up with this technology, and to them it's just going to be commonplace. I think that's a pretty neat, if subtle, feature. I like that.
Yeah, I can't wait for the way my daughter finally says please, because right now everything is ma 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 until she gets what she wants.
It'll be like that for a while. We're still dealing with that.
Nice. So this is a pretty cool technology, Jason. Forget having a smart speaker. Soon you'll be able to control your smart home with a few taps on your wall. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon University and Disney Research have developed a way to make your walls smart at a cost of $20 per square meter. Dubbed Wall++, the researchers have found a way that you can use conductive paint and a custom sensor board to create electrodes and turn a standard wall into a gesture sensing touchpad, like the entire wall, and an electromagnetic sensor to detect and track electrical devices and appliances. So you could literally go up to your wall, wave at it, and do a gesture of some type, and turn on the lights without having to touch it.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is pretty neat, and it's very early on. This is like very prototype style. You go to HomeTech.fm/209, and we'll have a link to a story where they got like a 2-minute video. I would encourage you to go check out, and pretty futuristic stuff here. It's hard to say what the applications for this technology will really look like, but I always sort of geek out on these sort of next gen interfaces and gesture control, and I just think it's really interesting. I have no idea how practical it is. I have a hard time watching it and thinking about, that would solve, this problem that I have today. But there's some cool stuff in there, including the ability to, for these walls to act as sensors, so they can pick up on electromagnetic fields. And they show the demo of like, they can detect somebody using an iPad or a TV or turning on a lamp in the room. And so there could be some neat things there if creative companies can come along and figure out interesting uses for that technology. So definitely go check out that video. HomeTech.fm/209 is where we'll have that up. Hot on the heels of Philo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we talked about these guys a couple of weeks ago, the streaming service. They announced a plan for Fire TV and Apple TV apps. And they're very like inexpensive, low-cost streaming service. Well, fresh on the heels of that news comes word that AT&T is planning to launch a service called Watch. This will be aimed at hitting a $15 price point per month for the streaming service. And the way that you're seeing some of these streaming services come out now with these lower, very skinny bundles that are at very low price points is they're avoiding some of the programming that tends to run the cost up, like sports, for example, has been cited in both of these stories. So I think it's great for consumers when for me, like I really like sports, and so it's probably not a great fit for me, but I know there's a ton of people out there who don't care about sports, and if they can go out there and get a $15 really skinny bundle that gives them all the things that they really care about, then that's great. So good news.
Yep, absolutely. This is what people have been asking about for years, and it looks like we're finally getting there. $15 is sounding really good with either one of these that you go with. I think they're pretty good.
Definitely.
Another Amazon news, Amazon director of Alexa Smart Home for Amazon. That's a mouthful of a title, but Mr. Charlie Kindle has left the company. On a post on his blog, Kindle tells readers he simply wanted to take a very serious break from work. Some other interesting things. He said he hadn't updated his smart home since 2001, and that he would be hiring a CEDIA level installer to completely refit the entire home automation system.
Yep.
And he will manage that project. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it sounds like he's been. I mean, the Echo platform has been like on fire for the past 5 years, and he's been part of like leading that entire that entire project. So I can imagine it's time to step away and take a breath and have a drink, and just
definitely
relax.
I can imagine, reading his personal blog post, it sounds like genuinely just really enjoyed his time there, but just needed to take a break and step back and enjoy a little bit of time to kick his heels up and spend some time with family. And I remember I remember reading that line specifically that you cited, Seth, where he said he's going to hire a CDL level company to come in and refit his home, but that he's going to manage it. And I remember thinking, oh, that company better have their ducks in a row, because that's going to be a detail oriented project. So that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I also read somewhere I think somebody reached out to him and asked what type of home automation platform he was going to go with, and he said he was leaning heavy towards Savant or Control 4 because of their integrations with the Alexa program. So it will be interesting to see what he ends up. Maybe we can get Charlie on for Project. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that would be a heck of an episode. Actually, we'll have to look into that. All right, and our last quick headline here, and then we're going to jump into one last story after this that we want to talk about for a couple of minutes. But really quickly, Honeywell announced their next generation residential platform at ISC West 2018. This new portfolio is meant to meld Honeywell's sort of a mishmash of current platforms with Vista, Lynx, and Lyric. The theme of this next collection is Learn One, Know Them All. A video at ISC promoting the next-gen solution showed Honeywell's most modular architecture ever, featuring wireless and wired hybrid alarm panels with user-replaceable cellular cards, batteries, and radios, including Wi-Fi, Z-Wave, and Zigbee for starters. So sounds like a pretty robust platform here. We've got a story from CE Pro that we'll link up in the show notes if you want to go check out more.
Yep, it does. There were a couple of weeks back, one of my friends is a developer was kind of said he was approached by Honeywell to write the Control 4 driver for them. And then all of a sudden they back away. And this is kind of like
funny
following, basically saying, kind of following up with that story. And I'm like thinking about, oh yeah, they probably didn't know who was going to be the project manager for any of this stuff in the next couple of months when they merged everything. So
right.
That it makes total sense now that they wouldn't want to kind of back off any projects until they kind of put everything together. So good for Honeywell.
Totally. Yeah, totally. All right. Well, shall we move into the big news here, Seth?
Yep, let's go. Amazon has quietly launched a portal offering home security services, which will include all the equipment you would need that you would need and in-person visits from Amazon consultants to advise and install the equipment. The packages are being sold in 5 price tiers at a flat fee with no monthly monitoring contracts, a significant disruption in how many home security services are sold today.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Amazon's obviously been on sort of a acquisitions slew here, and including Ring, of course, they acquired, and amongst others. And so, definitely go check out this story. I think this one is fascinating to me because it's not the first sign, obviously, that we've seen of Amazon getting more into doing services in the smart home. Obviously, they've had their smart home consults and different, sort of iterations of that, partnerships with CEDIA integrators for the more professional level stuff. So they're definitely, as a company, obviously taking a very hard look at not just being an online retailer of smart home equipment, but really having more of a direct hand in that experience and installation and setup and consultation and all of that. And I think it is really one of the big trends that I'm keeping a close eye on as we've sort of worked through the first quarter of 2018 and just watching the news every week. And I just anticipate we're going to see more of this, and it's really something that I think is pretty cool to see. Looking at this, there's on TechCrunch is where we're linking the story from. There's a little graphic, has like a table that outlines these different offerings. And so it looks like their cheapest is $240. It's called Outdoor Base. I don't know why it's called Outdoor Base. It's not totally clear, but it says something about outdoor lighting, indoor lighting, and an Echo Dot. So I'm not sure exactly like what that's designed to do. But anyways, some of the other, as these things tier up and gain more value, you've got things like safety sensors, motion and contact sensors, sirens, video doorbell, etc. So these things range from $240. It looks like up to about the picture's a little blurry actually, but $850.
Yeah, $840. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of a range there, 5 different options, but kind of cool to see. Really interesting to watch what Amazon's up to here.
Yeah, it seems like they're lining up to be a little more like at first glance. And Julie Jacobson has a kind of humorous take on this of what the headline read, and then kind of what her take on what the story really is. And I think I don't think it's overblown to say Amazon is kind of looking in this direction, because this is kind of step one, right? And they can easily make step 2 and 3 where they are offering some kind of home monitoring package, right? We've seen companies like Google, or actually Nest, do that with their system. They teamed up with what is that, Moni or Monotronics, whatever Monotronics rebranded as. Yeah, they teamed up with those guys and are offering professional monitoring. So it's pretty interesting to see. I want to see how this plays out in the future, but it's very interesting to see, like, there's an entire splash screen, like a portal that you can go to for this, like, basically to sell you smart products into your house. And of course they all have little tie-ins with the Echo as they need to, but it's interesting to see them kind of packaging and putting that together to kind of take the like research work and the guesswork out of it for most people. Like if you were just a muggle, Jason, and you were trying to figure out what to buy. You had no idea what to buy, but you knew you could go to Amazon and buy stuff. You would come across this page and say, "Oh, well, maybe the $300-ish package works for me." Or $320 package. That's what I want. I'm looking for a siren. I'm looking for motion and sensors and a camera. I'll get that. And you really don't have to think about it any further. Amazon's taking care of it for you, and they send somebody out to install it. So not bad. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, definitely. This is I'm just checking out the portal here, and it's kind of interesting too. They've got, if you scroll down, there is an actual a big button for Lennar connected homeowners. And I know, like, I can't remember what the details were with that partnership or something, but I do know Lennar is one of the builders that we talked about, I think late in 2017, who was really getting into doing connected home and advertising that as part of their offering. And so it looks like Amazon is working directly with them here on their security packages. And
did you see their packages
for Lennar specifically?
Yeah. If you click through, they're like through. They only have 3 packages. They are $750 up to $1,500.
Huh.
So it looks like they get more cameras, I guess. That's what seems to be the difference.
I don't know. Could easily get in the weeds here, but anyways, it to me is just really sort of symbolic of the times, right? Where you have these big companies that are just experimenting and doing new things that we just haven't seen. I mean, I've been in the smart home business for quite a while, and this is unprecedented. So it's fascinating. Definitely going to be keeping a really close eye on this one.
Yep, absolutely. All the links and topics we've discussed tonight can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/209. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for the weekly newsletter, which includes even further analysis by Jason over here, as well as other industry news that may or may not have made the show. Again, that link is HomeTech.fm/209.
So moving on here, Seth, we got a pick of the week, right?
Yeah. So last week we were talking about lighting control, and I made a comment about seeing these giant boxes on the walls. I think the biggest one I've seen around here is like a 6-gang lights, with 6 different light switches in one box. And sometimes they stack those one on top of each other. But I think this is a record, Jason. And this comes by the way of Chris Gamble in the hub.
Oh man, I got to do some counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 loads in 1, 2, gangs. 3, 12 gang?
Yeah.
17 loads in a 12 gang box. Wow.
I'm glad I'm glad you caught that, because I was. Can you imagine what the neutrals on that look like? And so if you look at it, yeah,
That's
there's a lot of
crazy.
switches there, but some of them are double.
Yep.
And that is insane. Like 17 loads in this one wall box. I'm glad I'm not the electrician on that project. That's
You gotta go check this one out. The thing that I think of is even when I used to put on like 4-gang cover plates, how painful it can be sometimes to get all of the screw holes to line up. Because you know what I mean? Like the devices, anyone who's installed these knows what I'm talking about. Like the device, the actual dimmer you've got to screw that into the box, and then the plate screws into the dimmer or the switch. And so you've got to get all of those things aligned just right. And I cannot imagine how painful it was to try to get that cover plate put on there. By the way, do they sell those off the shelf? Like, I mean, 12 gang wall box cover? I mean, I guess you can just go online and buy those.
Order. Let's see.
I'm gonna Google it.
12 gang. You know, I'm on Amazon already, so let me look up 12 gang switch box. It's not coming up, but
12 gang cover plate. No, it's coming up with some weird stuff, but wow, that's crazy. That's got to be some sort of record.
When I was redoing the electrical in my house, I kind of kept this in. It's what I did in the field too. There was nothing allowed over 2 gangs. Like 2 gangs was the maximum. And if I could get away with putting everything in one, I would. But there was maybe 2 or 3 locations in the house where I did not remodel and could not, physically relocate the switches somewhere else, like by the front door. We didn't remodel that area, and I couldn't take away the 2 gang box that's there. But it's a hard goal to make, especially when you have a lot of 3-ways. But if you're able to get in there and rip stuff out and change things over, definitely, utilizing a lighting control system and getting rid of those 3-ways and getting rid of that wall, what is it called? Wall cancer? I don't know.
Oh no. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. It's not wall clutter. Somebody wall acne.
Clutter. Yeah.
Wall acne. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Cody, in the chat room. Wall acne. God, I was drawing a blank on that one.
Yeah, it's getting late. But yeah, getting rid of all that wall acne, that was the major goal. And then, now I'm fine. Like I've got a house. Most of the places that had the 2 and 3 gangs, those are all gone. And I think I have 3 2 gangs left. So everything else is kind of hidden away, or running on a lighting control system where I don't have to worry about having it.
Yep, and this comes by way, like you said, of Chris Gamble, but it comes from looks like Cloud9, Cloud9's Instagram handle, and Cloud9 is a very reputable, it's a CE Pro 100 integrator, I believe, out there in New York, and so their caption is "Looking at your switches shouldn't make your brain hurt." And I have to agree with that. So that's pretty funny. Good find there. Thank you, Chris, for sending that across.
Yeah, I think that has to be a record. 17 in one box. If you have any more, if you have any more ugly things, send those in. Send those in, because we'll have picture of the weeks.
No doubt. All right. Well, shall we jump into the mailbag here?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm curious about this. We've got this message from Steve, and man, he asked a really deep question, and I think we should try and answer this the best we can. I'll go ahead and read it, I guess. Hi guys, love the show. I've been in the industry coming on 10 years now, and I've been in multiple areas of the industry, from sales to project management and installs, integration. I've got Control4, Lutron, RAW2, Shades certification, among others. In the last year, I've seen the two of you move out of the quote standard areas of employment in the industry into supporting roles for the industry. Seth, you're doing app driver development, and Jason, remote management with OneVision. Where do you see the industry going? This is his first question. Where do you see the industry going for the standard installer or sales guy / girl? Personally, I see it as pretty bleak. I have, at least in the non-big box online retailers, especially for home professionals like myself who work alongside home builders. The margins just aren't there to support it. In Canada, it's even worse than the US. In the last year, we've seen video matrix installs drastically decline because of cord cutting and streaming. Multi-room audio sales have slowed down. The number of people who are okay with the quality of sound from an Echo or a Beatsbill Bluetooth speaker is scary. And the
scary.
basics, yeah, it's not a very good sounding speaker. And the basics like running conduit or HDMI cables in the wall for TVs over the fireplace has declined because an Apple TV tucked behind the display works just fine. While Control4, Savant, and Raw2, etc. won't be replaced by HomeKit, Google Home, Alexa integrations in large homes, I don't think you'll see many installs from them in the average house in 5 years from now. Seth, how do you get started? Well, I guess we don't need to read that last part. Let's see. I guess we can. Seth, how do you get started in app driver development? Can you learn it on your own? What are languages and protocols that are needed to pick that up? Jason, a lot of to unpack here.
Ooh, yeah, big one.
Really good questions. And stuff I think that you and I have been like throwing those flags up over the past couple of years here. It's especially into regards to how like when he says in the last year we've seen video matrix installs drastically decline because of cord cutting. Like, yeah, I think you and I have been like banging on that drum for a long time. Like,
yeah,
and I my drum was like, look, the middle of the market is going to move to those Apple TV installs and tuck them behind the TVs. The high-end homes, where you're doing the massive installs, they still need that video distribution system because it makes sense. But you're going to start losing on those smaller systems, the 4x or the 8x8 matrices. Mm-hmm. Those are going to dry up on you, and you're going to have everybody in the same town competing for those super high-end jobs that have the big dollar amounts attached to them. I think that you and I have been warning about that. At least I hope we have. At least I hope that message has gotten out.
Yeah. I think video distribution is one great example, but it's sort of a microcosm in the sense that like, yes, these very specialized technologies still do have a place in very large homes and definitely in like big commercial or professional installations. But, that mid-market and everything down, it is getting harder and harder to justify, frankly. I just, that was always my experience in my recent history as an integrator, which, as Steve alludes to, Seth, you and I both sort of moved out of that and into sort of supporting roles in the industry. But I just remember having that challenge often, like looking at a design and thinking, well, is it really warranted? Like, do we really need a matrix? Because other than in very specific situations, like you can access content. I mean, I remember going back to the days where one of the big value props of an HDMI matrix is that you could have a DVR, right? You could record live TV and then pipe it all around the house. Well, everybody now has shared DVR. So if you're a DirecTV user or Cox or Time Warner or whoever your cable provider is, I don't know if any of them don't have that now, where you have one DVR in the house and they all can access it, and there you go. And that takes that whole value prop off the table. You've got Apple TVs. Conversely,
where you have YouTube TV, where the cloud is the DVR, right? Like there's a lot of those services starting up. So like
right.
The DVR is almost going to be one of those antiquated technologies soon.
Right. So, it definitely, like, to the broader point, I think that these conversations come up a lot in the industry right now, and I think rightfully so, as we alluded to, with like the Amazon story and Amazon doing security packages and stuff. Like, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, and I'm not a doomsdayer at all. I think the future for home technology professionals is bright for those who are willing to kind of read the writing on the wall, and even though times may be good right now, and at the very, even at the mid to high ends of the market, I think people are doing really, really well. The economy's booming. So there's a lot of good things happening, and I think that's great, and I think that'll continue for a while. But I do think long-term, the long-term trajectory of the industry very much is, one of the core reasons why I took the opportunity to go join OneVision, is because I believe fundamentally that the future of the industry belongs to those who are really able to position their company on the value of personalized service, sort of a curated experience, being able to go in there and take all of these disparate technologies and still, like, you've got these companies coming into the space and doing all these great things for DIYers, but for most people, it's still too much. And I think it's going to be that way for a very, very long time. And I think that there's going to be a significant portion of the market of people who are willing to, spend some money to have somebody come in, advise them on the experience, get the work done, and then most importantly, be there to take care of it when things go wrong, because things will always go wrong. And anyone who's been in the industry knows that, and that's, I don't think, ever going to change. So, I think that the days are numbered for for video distribution in most homes, other than at the very high end. I think multi-room audio is another great example of where things are just getting so easy to do, and large portions of the market just don't care about high audio quality. Although there's a ton of people out there who do, and if you can go sell to them, like, by all means, go do it. But ultimately, I think the opportunities are really going to be in sort of building those long-term lifetime relationships, and just owning the whole experience, and not. It's going to move away from what has traditionally been a very, very almost singular focus on landing large projects. That's what's going to shift, and the projects are still going to be there, but a larger and larger portion of the revenue is going to have to come from service and support. So, I think there are different gradients to that, and it means different things to different people, but generally that's where I come down on sort of the overriding theme of this email.
Yeah, and the I think the bigger point to that, like what you just said, like if you strip all of it away, if you own a business or you're in the business, like the point we're trying to make is your business is going to change. Like, you will still have a business, but it's just going to change. Realize that. Like, you're not going to be doing the massive or the smaller HDMI matrix installs. Like, that's not going to happen anymore because HDMI is going to go away, right? Like, we're going to be streaming everything. Over there in the chat room, I just saw Greg say that there's a cable provider in Canada that has replaced all of their cable boxes with Apple TV. And they give you an app and you put it on, and he says it's awesome. So, I mean, there's these things that are happening that will change the way this industry works. I am totally with you. I think service is a huge part of what will make or break a home automation company or crew in the future. Like, if you don't have a good service mentality in the company that you're in right now, I don't know how a company survives today without service, like without picking up the phone, returning phone calls, and that kind of thing. I see it all the time. I get complaints still. Like, I've been out of this, and I still get people calling me saying, "Oh, so and so just doesn't call me back." It's like, how is that possible? Like,
right?
They just want to spend money with you. Pick up the phone and talk to them, no matter how uncomfortable the conversation is. Like, pick up the phone and talk to them.
Right.
And or if you don't, conversely, Amazon will. It seems like they are willing to pick up the phone at all hours of the day and night. So just the business will change. It has to change. And I think that is for the better. I don't think, like you're saying, I don't think there's any, if you're just a standard installer, like, I don't think there's anything that you particularly have to worry about other than like working for a company that has these good policies in place, and a strategic roadmap, I guess, would be, like, where are they going to be in 5 years? If they think they're still going to be wiring up McMansions, and installing video matrix systems, that might not be the best business plan for the next 5 to 10 years. And because I even while I was doing this a couple of years back, I saw those kind of disappear. So I do want to say, like, I have some of the, the doomsdayers, like, blood in me, like, I kind of see this happening, but I'm very positive on where the industry is headed. I just think it's going to look different than what you and I and Steve here know as the industry being. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, it can be better for everyone involved. It's just going to be a little different. That's all. Right.
Yeah. And I think, and this could obviously be a whole conversation onto itself, but Doc Brown, who's joining us in the live chat room, says, next evolution will be integrated home healthcare. And I think that's just not even to, like, go into that one specific example, but I just think that line of thinking is spot on, right? Like that's the way that if you're a business owner or you're looking to get aligned with a company that's going to really be able to make it work for the long term, you've got to be thinking about like, where is the value? Like there's a value chain in the smart home. And for a long time, the value that the CDF professional was delivering was the ability just to make things work together. That's getting easier. Like even if you take out Google and Apple and all of these big companies out of the equation and just look at what's happened in the CDS space, right? Like look at what Savant did when they came onto the scene, whenever that was. That had to be close to 10 years ago at this point, but that was their big thing, was like drag and drop programming. And that was like huge. They were like one of the first big companies to come out and do that. And that trend has continued. You see Crestron doing it. Like the technological barriers to entry are falling. Like whether or not you consider Google and Apple and all the other big companies, like that's just a fact. So you've got to find a way to differentiate like what you bring to the table for the client, because it's no longer enough to just say, oh, well, I'm a really good programmer and I can make stuff work together. Well, lots of people can do that now. That was a lot harder to do 10 years ago. And it's gotten easier, and that's just a fact. So ultimately, you know, again, I think the debate always goes a little bit in circles because people tend to disagree on how quickly this is going to happen, and some people are sort of doomsdayers and like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, and others are like, oh, everything's fine, and then you've got, you know, every shade of gray in between there. But I think ultimately reasonable people should all agree that like, yes, things are changing, and ultimately we can disagree on what that looks like or the time frame, but you know, this industry isn't going to look like 5 years from now. It's not going to look very similar to what it does today. This is technology and everything's changing. So you know, I think it's just about getting in position, and I think that ongoing sort of technology management and support and service in the home is going to play a big part of it. But I also think there are other interesting things like healthcare or, you know, just more robust sort of monitoring. Smart appliances is something that comes to mind. Like, how does that play out? You know, there's a lot of interesting things happening in the smart home, and it's incumbent on anybody who depends on this sort of industry to feed their families, to read the tea leaves and figure out where this is all headed, because there's a lot of opportunity here, but it just may not be the same opportunity that we're looking at today.
Yeah, and to your point there, if things are changing, first of all, like, and I think that you think this, I don't want to put, you know, words in your mouth, but I think that you think this, like, service is probably the easiest thing a business could change, because they should be doing it anyway, right? But making your customers happy and providing good service, if that is the way out of this, like, why not do it? Because it seems like that's the easiest thing that you could like learning a completely different market like home health or something like that, and getting involved with that seems more complicated than providing good service to me. Like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like it would be easier to maintain service with the clients that you have, and keep them happy. I read this book years ago called Raving Fans. Like raving fans, make them raving fans of your company. Make them want to spend money with you. Make them want to come in and say hi. Like, just make them happy. And with any service business, that's just how it is. And I don't understand. Like, I think that's probably the easiest way that the integration market gets out of the predicament that it finds itself in, with, you know, lowering margins, changing equipment, changing system designs, is with service. So yeah, and we're totally going down the rabbit hole here, but yeah, you know, and what the one last thing that I would say in response to what you just said is, like, it's not just about providing great service, because a lot of companies will hear that and say, well, I already do that. Like, that's how I've built my reputation. Like, that's why I'm here, is because I take care of my clients. But there's a difference between like providing great service and providing
like a truly sort of differentiated and new approach that you can monetize and, sort of productizing service, right? Like that's kind of how I think about it. It's like service has always been treated as something that it's like, well, we've got to do this great because we've got to keep our clients happy and we've got to get referrals, and like that all makes a ton of sense. I get that. But like, how do we start to treat service like a product and put it in a package and define the offering and give multiple options and give, a tiered approach and say, okay, we do have this baseline level of service that's great and it's free and we'll take care of you. But ultimately, like if you want to receive X, Y, or Z level of service, like we do charge for that. And there's got to be a growing confidence in the industry. Like that change has to happen where people just start being comfortable saying, yes, we charge a monthly fee for this ongoing management. Here's why we do it. Here's why it's in your best interest. And, that change, we see it coming, we see it happening, and it's happening with our partners, of course, at OneVision. But
it's happening with Amazon. I mean, they've productized the service, right? Like they're doing that. So, it's obviously something that major companies are doing. Like, why not, small players in a subset of the market of, Florida? Why not,
Right. Totally. So this was a great email, and I'm glad we spent some time with it. And Steve, really appreciate you reaching out, and hopefully that helped. And if you, Steve, or anybody else listening to this conversation want to follow up and provide some comments on this, or frankly anything that you'd like to hear us discuss on the show, we would absolutely love to hear from you. So the best way to do that, shoot us an email, feedback@HomeTech.fm. So again, that's feedback@HomeTech.fm. Or if you want to just fill out a quick form, you can head on over to our website at HomeTech.fm/feedback, and that'll give you a convenient little form there you can fill out and shoot us your thoughts on anything, related to the business or technology or anything in general. Like we love getting those suggestions, and diving into the mailbag every week is one of my favorite parts of the show. So definitely would encourage anybody listening to take a minute and do that. We would love to hear from you.
Yep. And I just want to answer his question about how to get started in development. That's a little trickier. Maybe, I guess the way I did was just kind of like over time. There's plenty of like programming resources out there right now. They are all excellent. There's some really good, especially around like JavaScript, that you can get on and take some online courses. I will try and dig some of those things up and put them in the show notes. But really just kind of learning the general idea of what programming is. Like eventually you get to the point where the languages don't matter. They all say the same thing, and they're just different words that you type in. That's all. So I guess my answer is, for me, I just had to get out and do it. And then, after so many times of failing and it not working, it worked once. And you move on to the next step. That's really all there is to it. So I will try and put a couple of links to like some like basic courses in programming and that kind of thing that I think are good. And we'll go from there. But, that's I really don't have much advice other than like, you kind of have to start from the beginning if you're going to start from the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Well, that just about does it. We do want to give a big thank you to everybody who supports the show, but especially those of you who are able to financially contribute to our efforts here at the podcast through our Patreon page. If you're not familiar with that, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support, and that's where you can learn about supporting our efforts here at the show for as little as $1 a month. We do like to mention that any pledge over $5 a month will get you a shout out on the show, and we love doing those, obviously. But any pledge at all, even at that $1 a month level, will send you an invite to our private Slack channel, The Hub, where you can participate with other supporters of the show in everyday sort of inside baseball conversations and just all sorts of fun stuff around all aspects of home technology. So once again, HomeTech.fm/support if you're interested in learning more about that.
Yep, and if you can't help support the show financially, we'd of course appreciate a 5-star review in iTunes or a positive rating in your podcast app of choice. But it has to be 5 stars. Nothing less.
Nothing less. Nothing less will suffice.
Yep.
All right, Seth. Well, fun episode. Glad to be back in the saddle here after missing a week, and we'll look forward to reconnecting with you again next week. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yep, sounds good. I'll talk to you next week, Jason.
All right, take care.